Some of you may already know about our shortcut sheet techniques. What I'm going to teach you today is part of that whole concept. If you don't know anything about shortcut sheet techniques, you may want to take a minute, go to kitsbycarla.com and have a look at what all that's about. So today's video is about using simple tools to do square ups. I use only a 24-inch quilting ruler. That's what I use for everything. My cutting mat, the angles on my rulers. And I'm going to show you today how to square up a 100-star block using very simple tools, and you'll be surprised at how quickly this goes. So I want to show you my ruler rack. This is it. I mean, it used to be full. Now I have just one ruler ready. I use this for everything. We're going to use this ruler to square up our squares. We're going to get a piece of ordinary paper. This is 8.5 by 11. And of course our rotary cutter. I'm going to use a pen. With those tools, I'm going to perfectly square up my 100-star blocks. So here's my piece of paper. First thing I want to do is make it square. It's 8.5 by 11. Just going to use the grid, my cutting mat, my 24-inch ruler, and I'm going to cut it to 8.5 in the other direction. And once that's done, I'm going to mark some lines on it. I make sure I'm perfectly square. Everything looks good. I always look through my ruler to the grid lines underneath, so when I'm lining up my ruler lines with the grid, very clear top and bottom that I'm straight. Next, take the ruler corner to corner on the diagonal. You're going to mark a line, goes exactly from the corner to the corner. Another one in the other direction. This is going to give me the center. Got a little static happening here. It's not. There we go. My next mark is on the vertical. Again, line up my paper with my grid. This time I'm going to line up my ruler with this intersecting diagonal lines. I'm also going to look at my background grid. It should be at 8 1/4. I'm sorry, 4 1/4. One this way, and finally one in this direction. Now with this I can square up my block. Start with one of my blocks, fold it in half. I'm going to touch my 2 points together that I know are giving me a half mark. And just use your finger to finger press. And that gives you the center of your block. You can see a little fold there. Take a pin through the center of that fold. Put my paper first. Center of my paper, center of my block, right where that fold was. Now I can spin this block so I know I have a diagonal. I can line up my diagonal paper line with the diagonal of my block. This particular block has a very clear diagonal. Once that's lined up, I just take my ruler. Now I've already measured, so I know I'm going to be cutting these to 9 inches. Now 9 is an unusual size. Normally you're going 9 1/2. With the shortcut sheet technique for making this hunter star block, the size is arbitrary. It varies with the size of the center, the person who's sewing, how your 1/4 inch seam allowance goes. So you take your blocks and you decide, okay, with my 4 1/2 to my outside edge, the 4 1/2 is on my center line, I'm going to get just enough to catch the seam allowance on all the pieces on my side and slice. I can take the ruler now, swing it around, 4 1/2 on my center line, and I can trim that side. I haven't pinned anything. I don't think it's necessary. I can gently swing my block around, cut my other 2 sides that way. In this case, my paper moved, doesn't matter. I can line it back up again using the center of my block, diagonal lines on the diagonal of my piece. I'm cutting 4.5 inches, so I'm looking for the 4.5 line on my ruler. Trim this outside edge. And then my last one, swing the ruler around 4.5 using the horizontal line. And now that's squared up. Now there's an even faster way. I can do this without finding the center of my block. Let me show you how. Here's another block. If I measure the diagonal of this inside point, the length of that, I'll use my 1-inch side. Where's my one? Here's one. And I've got 6.5 inches. So I'm going to cut this piece of paper. I'm going to cut 2 corners off so that I'm less than 6.5. So I'll probably go 6 1/4, which means this is going to be 3 1/8 on that diagonal line. 3 1/8. I'm going to cut the corner off the paper. I'm going to do the same on the other side. So I'm measuring from the diagonal center, 3 1/8. This ruler is nice because it has a good 1/8 mark. Cut this off as well. So now I've got an odd shaped piece, looks like this. I can take this piece and I can eyeball. I can say, all right, here's my diagonal, here's my point here, here's my point there. I know I'm going to be in the center. And now I just need to trim. Again, I'm using the 4.5 inch measurement that's printed on the ruler with the vertical line trim. So I have a little seam in my cutting mat. I have to make sure I move over from it. 4.5 on my center and trim. Spin it around. The paper moves, doesn't matter. I just sort of eyeball my center again. I mean, we're not brain surgeons here. If we're out of hair, it doesn't matter. You'll be able to adjust for that when you sew your blocks together. Get it as close as you possibly can, and it's going to be perfectly all right. 4.5 on the center. And I've squared up my second block. So you can see how fast that is. So this is all you need. Your regular 24-inch quilting ruler, piece of paper, a rotary cutter, and a pen. Maybe a pin to find your center. This will work for any block that you need to square up. The key is that you need to find the center and you need to know what your diagonal is. It's very evident on this Hunter Star block. For the block that you want to square up, you want to find something that you can measure against as well. So I hope you enjoyed this technique. There will be more coming. Happy quilting. Have a wonderful day.